Hi and welcome to our little YouTube video, which is a series basically getting on some of the most well-respected cybersecurity professionals that are in senior roles that we can then help entry-level people with their story. So I've got Lianne Potter, who's the head of DevSecOps in ASDA, and she is basically going to talk us through her story. So I'm going to get straight into it. So tell me, Lianne, how did you get into cybersecurity? What prompted that?
It was a long and winding road to get into cybersecurity. I have heard, it's just a rumor, that M. Night Shyamalan has looked at my CV and decided to, because there's so many plot twists in there, he's going to direct the film of it. So I started off life as a wedding photographer. I then turned into an anthropologist where my specialism was looking at digital culture. And I thought, well, how do I cause chaos with digital anthropology? And anthropology, for those that don't know, because I do get asked quite a lot, is the study of human cultures. So my specialism was the study of digital human cultures and how they are formed, built, and ultimately collapse. And I decided, let's try and, use what we know about human culture to make the technology we do better. And so I thought, well, I better learn a technical skill here. So I became a software developer, and I did that using free online resources, so like things like Free Code Camp, Code Academy, YouTube videos, and going to lots and lots of tech meetups to kind of really understand what the tech industry was all about. When I finally got my first job as a software developer, I was part of a NHS graduate scheme. And while I was there doing my dev stuff, I noticed there's a specific team that seemed to be completely segmented from the rest of the organization. And I mean literally segmented. They were in a completely different room and you only could get in by a pass. So it was very, very exclusive club. And I thought, I want to be in that exclusive club. What is it? And that team was the cybersecurity team. Now, at the time, they weren't accepting any graduates. So I spent literally, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, a year, 5 days a week, bugging the then CISO there. Could I please come and join them? And after a year, there was a position opened up and I became a SOC analyst. So that's how I got into tech, through lots of bugging the CISO.
Well, that's a unique story, and I love the fact that you went into software development first, and then you transitioned from that into at the same organization, basically
Yeah.
into cyber, which is quite unusual because most people come in, that I'm speaking to recently, they've come in from a totally different area.
Mm.
So that's quite interesting. And so you've obviously mentioned a few things there with regards to software, what you did. What did you do specifically in terms of learning in cyber? Because if you've come in from
Yeah.
software, that's one angle, and you've gone in rather than pen testing, which maybe code reviews was something that you could do. SOC is totally different. It's more defensive security. So how did you then make your learning transition?
Yeah, how did I just go poof? It wasn't, yeah, I had to actually prove myself. So that's what that year was pretty much spent doing. So I kept thinking of ways like, how do I impress the CISO here to let me in to this exclusive club? And so as well as going to normal tech meetups, I started going to cybersecurity meetups, understanding the industry. I started reading all the publications, started listening to loads of podcasts. In my day job, because as a software developer, it's very easy actually, or any other kind of team that's not cybersecurity. If you put your hand up and say, "Hey, is this a cybersecurity thing? Do you want me to look at it?" and get that exposure to cybersecurity tasks when you're a non-cybersecurity person. So as a developer, when a pen test report came in and we had to do code remediation, doing things like that, putting your hand up because nobody else wants to do it, get that exposure, utilize the fact that not many people have a strong interest in this area, but you could gain all the skills and expertise. And very quickly, I was, the go-to person outside of the cybersecurity team to go to with cybersecurity things. I was also very lucky. I was given access to a learning and development platform called Immersive Labs. And I was given a full account on there, but you can get community accounts. So if your listeners Google Immersive Labs Community Edition, you'll have access to these labs. And what's brilliant about that and their training platform, which is phenomenal, I must say, is the ability to be able to actually play around with things like malware in a really safe environment. So it's all browser based and you don't leave your environment, so there's no danger to your computer or anything like that, but you actually get a very hands-on experience. So it takes you on a step-by-step guide. It's a very much a progressive learning curve. So you start off with the basics. So they don't throw you in straight away and say, okay, like now do forensic analysis on malware. But they build you up to that point where you can. And by the end of it, I was doing things like that. And that was just through this training course. I was also really lucky that I managed to, because I was doing a lot around the software development side, able to get onto a certified security tester qualification. And that was basically all around application security as well. And yeah, the kind of transition into SOC, well, a lot of the SOC processes are very manual, especially at sort of tier 1 level activities.
Yep.
It's usually SOC teams buy a lot of very expensive tools, but then they've got to try and use that data in some way. And quite honestly, quite a lot of it is a very manual process of putting it into other spreadsheets to then get transposed into other documents, into reports at the end of the day. And I was able to utilize my software development skills. I remember quite clearly that in the kind of first few weeks of me joining, I was given all these arduous, mundane tasks, which basically copy and pasting things from websites, platforms into a spreadsheet. And I thought I can make this a lot quicker. So I wrote a script that basically called the APIs of these platforms and then put them into the Excel document for me. So I didn't actually need to do anything at all. So something that at the start of my journey, my first few weeks in that job, that took me all day to do, I was able to first thing on a Monday morning go run, and it would do it in seconds. And I believe from what I hear, they still use that script to this day. So I kind of manufactured myself out of a job, but after that I was like, well, what now? What do you want me to do now? I've kind of saved you all this time and effort, now put me on something more interesting. And that's how it kind of developed from there.
That's fantastic. I just love the fact that you were able to use immersive labs, get some exposure from there. The fact that you were thinking outside the box, how can I automate this and help myself a little bit? It's just great. And I think it shows that one of the most important skills required is being able to look around problems and think, you know what? Okay, I've not got these certs, or these qualifications. How do I get some experience in this? And I love that, and I love the fact that you've done. And then looking at ways to automate things to make your life easier, not to get yourself out of a job, but to make things easier, so that you can focus on things that are more important and more value for you. So yeah,
I have a very low threshold for boredom, so that was one of the kind of main driving factors. It was an incredible boring task. A lot of stuff in cyber is, and I would like to kind of express that. People think it's an incredibly sexy industry, but just like any other industry, there's definitely more interesting and less interesting tasks out there. If you have that kind of spidey sense that this is boring and could be done automatically, then go for it. There are so much ways we can improve cybersecurity. But the other side of boredom is the fact that if you are bored, you miss things because you're distracted. Or you become apathetic. So automation is so incredibly important to making our estate secure. My initial response to boredom was very selfishly, I wanted to do more interesting things and free up my time to do more interesting things. But the end result is it freed me up to be able to focus on probably more crucial and more important tasks.
Absolutely perfect. And I love that. What sort of challenges? So when you were transitioning into cyber and also then moving through into different positions, what sort of challenges have you faced over the last few years within the cyber industry?
Faced and still face is definitely imposter syndrome. Absolutely. Particularly coming from a, non-linear background. I don't do computer science or anything like that. My degrees are in English literature and anthropology. So when I'm sort of talking to people and I just think, oh, they've probably been doing this for years and they've got all this background, that little voice in your head will always speak. But then I think what kind of helps me break out of that is looking at, yes, maybe I haven't had the traditional background, but what are all these other skills and other experiences that I bring to the table that are just as valuable and that bring different perspectives and can still serve the role I'm doing?
Absolutely.
because that's really important. You can forget sometimes that something as simple as having, for example, like a customer service background, being able to talk to people, manage people's expectations, and understand what's not being said in security is incredibly powerful skill. Because if you're dealing with, for example, an engineering function, software development function, and trying to understand actually what are their deadlines, what targets do they have to hit, what do they have to do in their 2-week sprint, and will your security initiative hinder that, and what's the massive impact that'll have on the business. Understanding things like that is just as important as understanding the OWASP top 10, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And I love the fact that you highlighted imposter syndrome, because I think many people in the industry face this same feeling. In fact, across, not just in cyber, in so many industries, a lot of people face this. But one thing that I love is that you've not just somebody who's at a retailer, and working in a senior position, but you're trying to help the community. And there's so many things that you do, initiatives. I mean, I'm looking down. Obviously, the compromising positions, it breaks down cyber, with talking to professionals in and around the industry that can really help to understand in very simple terms. That's one of the reasons why it's one of the few podcasts I actually listen to, because
Thank
it
you very
actually
much.
makes complicated things very easy to understand. And I'm certain in all of the other endeavors that you've got going, I'm sure that you are trying to help people. So on that note, what things would you advise anybody who's looking to break into cyber, particularly maybe the other females that want to try and get into the industry? What do they need to do? What, to get themselves noticed, so that, or what do you recommend they do to try and break into the industry?
So the industry is really tough to break into at the moment because there's been a lot of press about there is millions of open roles available and things like that. And then that's encouraged people obviously to like, okay, right, I'm going to retrain, or maybe I'll do a degree in it, and we're getting a lot of new people to the industry. So the industry is really saturated with early careers. And not enough early careers jobs going around, unfortunately. So you're going to have to stand out in different ways. And I think it cringes most people. And I actually was talking to a load of graduates recently. It cringes a lot of people, but that personal brand thing is so incredibly important. I know I wouldn't be where I am today as fast as I am today if it wasn't for harnessing my personal brand. And I worked on that from the very first day I arrived in tech. So as a software developer all the way to now. And they always say the best time to start working in network is straight away, because when you need your network, and you will need your network at some point, it will be too late if you've not already started building those connections. Now, do not build connections for connections' sake. They have to be meaningful connections. But what I do recommend is, and I do this, and I know a lot of people do, is if I'm recruiting, I will look at your LinkedIn profile. And I will see what you're commenting on or not commenting on or not doing. A blank LinkedIn profile is practically like having no LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely.
I want people who are actively engaged in this community, because it's so important that we keep talking amongst ourselves. Otherwise, nothing is going to improve. But they have to be meaningful conversations. It's very easy to just reply to the bottom of someone's post and go, nice, great work. That's very easy. But asking questions, probing, call to actions on your own posts. I would say in early careers, you probably don't have a lot to talk about, but you're probably reading stuff, blogs, you're probably listening to stuff, hopefully compromising positions. And hopefully you're going to events and things like that. When you go to events, take a picture. It doesn't have to be a selfie. It could just be of the event. It could be of the speaker speaking, and say, what were your key takeaways you brought from that? Start building little bits of content like that to share. And what you can hope to aim for by the end of the day, and this is what I was seeing quite early on in my career. I would go to events and then people come up to me and go, oh, hi, Lianne. I didn't know who they were. But they knew me because they'd seen me on LinkedIn. And now I'm sure a couple of your listeners might be thinking, well, how does that translate to work? I have to say that I have not had to apply for a single job in years. It's all been through LinkedIn networking connections. People have got in touch with me and saw my profile, what I was doing in the industry, and wanted a piece of that. I have got free education, certs, courses, because people be like, you know what, I'm going to give you this because I know that you'll make it worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Right. And I get invited to events that sometimes have a charge to them, but I get in for free because they want me there. You know, that takes time, but it didn't take that much time. And it was just because people, it sounds kind of sickening and it cringes me to say, it's almost kind of like being an influencer. I don't call myself an influencer, by the way, but it's that kind of idea that people want you there because they know that you're going to contribute to the conversation because of what they've already seen you do.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Lianne. And I think that's one of the things that sets yourself apart, because all the conversations that you have with people are real. And I can testify to that, because whenever we sit down and have a conversation at an event, or, we catch up, it's always about real issues and real things. It's not superficial, because with some people, you just know that they're trying to utilize a person's network just for themselves and for their own promotion. And I think it's very different. Those people that are genuinely out there trying to make a difference, you can spot them a mile off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it just shows. And I think that's why so many people resonate and want you to talk at their conferences or visit their events, or basically, because they know how genuine you are, that that you are trying to change things in the industry, and that you are actually working towards it. It's not just that you say you are. There's so many different initiatives that you work on and are working on to make it better for people. And I think it stands out. And I think that's that's what so many people really look up to and feel inspired by. And I think that's what I want to get out of this for other people, that look, you don't have to come and have done a cybersecurity degree in forensics or in some aspect of cyber. You can come in from all angles. And I think that the various people that I'm bringing in, and we had Justin last time, and Justin basically had come from a retail background. You've got Lianne, who came from photography, then she'd done anthropology as a degree. Very, very different subject, but everything really can be related back and utilized in cyber. So yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, my goal, and it's a lofty goal, but my hope is that I leave the industry better than when I started, and that's what drives me to do everything I do. And so, things like raising awareness, getting other people's voices into the cybersecurity mix, is very important. Early careers, career retrainers, all that, making sure the industry's in a better place. So, yeah, I hope I'm getting there somewhere. But that's my goal, and it is my shining light of everything I do. It influences every decision I make. Will this better the industry in some way?
And I think it shows, and I think your passion for the industry definitely shows. And I think people are very thankful that we have somebody in there that does really champion some of the more human elements of cybersecurity, rather than just everything's about tooling, and that's it. And I think it's good that you've got a more human-centric approach in how you approach things. So thank you very much, Lianne. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today, and I look forward to catching up with you, hopefully in the next few events coming up.
Awesome. Keep up the good work yourself.
Cheers. Thank you. Right.